Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're taking dense philosophy and psychology and turning it into your personal mental survival guide against the absolute avalanche of today's junk cognition. I'm honestly so thrilled to share this with you, because we're not just going to talk about how to win debates. No, we are going to literally restructure how you process information.
So, I want to start off by asking you a question. Why do we cling to our wrong ideas, right? In this era of viral misinformation, without what we call logical security, your mind is deeply, deeply vulnerable to manipulation. We're hit with a continuous stream of data every single day. And if you don't know exactly how your brain processes and, sometimes misinterprets that data, you kind of become a very easy target.
To fix that, we're going on a highly structured journey. We're going to cover 1. The mind's trap. 2. The shield of logic. 3. The psychological compass. 4. The sword of persuasion. 5. The arena of dialogue. And finally 6. Logical security.
All right, let's jump into Section 1, the mind's trap, thinking illusion.
Daniel Kahneman's dual process theory brilliantly maps out how our brains actually work. You've got System 1, which is fast, emotional, and totally automatic. Then you have System 2, which is slow, analytical, and way more rational. Now, here's the kicker. Manipulators, whether they're online, in the media, or just in a tough negotiation, deliberately bypass your logical System 2. They use highly charged, emotional language to trigger that impulsive System 1, basically forcing you to make snap judgments without really analyzing the facts.
And when that emotional System 1 takes over, we become infected by what researchers call junk cognition. This is unwanted, totally misleading information that spreads like a literal epidemic. It completely bypasses our logic and just destroys collective critical thinking. Protecting yourself against this whole shebang brings us to our first real line of defense,
Which is Section 2, the shield of logic, dismantling fallacies. Okay, so there are 4 main categories of fallacies to watch out for: formal, ambiguity, relevance, and assumption. Now don't worry, you do not need to dismantle every single argument you hear from scratch. Honestly, that just takes way too much energy. You simply need to recognize these specific structural patterns, because once you can spot them and call them by their actual names, you instantly neutralize their power. Let's look at 3 of the absolute most dangerous ones.
A really prime example is the statistical fallacy known as the Texas sharpshooter. Imagine a guy just shooting wildly at a barn wall, right? Then he walks up and literally paints a target around a tight cluster of bullet holes, so he suddenly looks like this master marksman. Well, this happens all the time in debates. People will cherry-pick tiny clusters of data that just happen to fit their false narrative, while completely ignoring the massive wall of misses right next to it.
Next up, we have the Procrustean bed. This one is named after the Greek myth of the villain who either stretched his guests or literally chopped off their legs just to make them perfectly fit his iron bed. Yikes, right? But in arguments, this is a super dangerous methodological trap where we basically mutilate reality. Instead of just updating our beliefs when we learn new facts, we twist, stretch, or hide those facts just to forcefully make them fit into our own preconceived theories. And then, of course, there's the classic straw man. If you have ever had someone drastically twist your words, totally exaggerate your point, and make you look completely foolish, well, you've been attacked by a straw man. They build this fake, incredibly weak version of your argument just so they can easily knock it down in front of an audience, entirely avoiding your actual, much stronger point.
Moving on to Section 3, the psychological compass, hidden biases.
Now, we all know about confirmation bias, right? Seeking out what we already believe. But there is this utterly fascinating phenomenon called the backfire effect. Get this. Your brain literally treats cognitive attacks on your core beliefs exactly like physical attacks on your body. It's wild. If you just throw harsh facts at someone's deeply held but wrong belief, they're not going to change their mind. Their brain immediately triggers a threat response, and they will double down and believe that false thing even harder.
So, how do we get past that? Section 4, the sword of persuasion, communication rhetoric.
To figure this out, we actually need to go back thousands of years to Aristotle. He knew that cold logic, which he called logos, simply isn't enough to persuade humans. You also need ethos, which is your credibility and character. You absolutely need pathos, utilizing emotion and storytelling to bypass that defensive threat response we just talked about. And crucially, you need kairos, meaning the strategic timing of your message, because the best argument in the world delivered at the totally wrong time, completely useless.
Now let's fast forward to modern behavioral psychology, specifically Robert Cialdini's 7 principles of influence. Things like social proof and reciprocity are super powerful, for sure. But look at number 7, unity. Added in 2016, unity is the absolute secret weapon of persuasion. When you create a shared we identity, people's defenses instantly drop. For example, if you ask someone for advice rather than an opinion, you subconsciously invite them into a partnership. You're no longer opponents, you're a single unit trying to solve a problem together. It's a real game changer.
That brings us to Section 5, the arena of dialogue, debate strategies.
So, for live situations, this 4-step refutation model is basically your ultimate tactical blueprint. First, you signal, point directly to your opponent's claim. Second, you state your counterclaim loud and clear. Third, you support it with really targeted evidence. And fourth, you summarize exactly why this means your overall position is correct. Following this keeps you incredibly focused and stops you from getting dragged down into irrelevant rabbit holes or those sneaky red herring distractions.
But hey, debate isn't just about refuting points, it's heavily about active listening. There's this brilliant technique for really tense discussions where you physically pass a token, like a pen or even a TV remote, to strictly dictate who speaks and who listens. And the listener is absolutely not allowed to formulate counterattacks. They just have to paraphrase back to confirm understanding. It creates this massive sense of psychological safety, completely neutralizing that stubborn backfire effect we covered earlier.
And finally, Section 6, logical security, protecting your awareness. You see, logical security isn't just some cheap trick to go win a random internet argument. It's a comprehensively fortified state of mind. It means you have these active cognitive filters running in your brain to automatically dismantle emotional manipulation and really analyze causal links. You are essentially building an intellectual firewall against the overwhelming tide of modern ideological and commercial manipulation out there.
Ultimately, when you take the cold logic of spotting fallacies and combine it with the warm psychology of empathy and persuasion, something amazing happens. You transform a destructive, ego-driven fight into a truly collaborative search for reality. You're no longer just trying to defeat a person, you're actually teaming up with them to defeat a misunderstanding.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought. In your very next argument, whether it's online or sitting around the dinner table, will you use your newly acquired mental arsenal to simply attack and destroy your opponent? Or will you use it to lower their defenses and uncover the truth together? I really hope this explainer has equipped you with exactly the tools you need to do the latter. Stay curious, keep that logical shield up, and I'll catch you next time.